Hello, everyone who has joined us in our YouTube channel. I welcome you all. I am Misbah Fatima. I am the host of today's session, sponsored by SheSec. It is a really fast growing community in cybersecurity for women, founded by two brilliant minds, Hola and Ifra Iman. And today our topic is really interesting and very complicated as well. It's about data privacy, the challenges, what it is. And we have Maria Khan with us. She has spent quite some time in data privacy industry. And yeah, we'll discuss. So hi Maria, how are you? I welcome you here. Please
Hi,
introduce yourself. Yeah.
hi, Misbah. Thank you so much. Very pleased to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. So I work as a data privacy legal analyst at Securiti. It's a US-based software company. My company, we build software that helps companies all around the world to comply with global privacy laws. And I assist my company in ensuring that our products comply with the changing legal developments in the privacy space. I primarily focus on European jurisdictions, and I have a substantial understanding of consent management, cookie consent management, privacy notice creation, and online direct marketing. And I am a lawyer. I have done my law from LUMS and have done my master's from the University of Michigan. So I'm very excited to be speaking on data privacy. I'm very glad to be here.
Yeah. I'm also very glad to host you here. So let's get it started with the question and answer. So my first question would be the very basic one. I'm sure that you have answered this a lot. What is data privacy and how it is different than data protection? Is there any overlap between these two terms?
So data privacy, it's a rights-based approach, which basically means that every individual has a right to data privacy. It's a very individualistic approach. The focus is on data and the individual who are represented by that data, and that every individual has a right to data privacy. Individuals should be in control of when they decide that they're going to send their data to somewhere, and when they're going to what happens to their data, they should be informed about it. So this concept is data privacy. And data protection, it comes under data privacy because data privacy aims to protect the data. It ensures that all principles of data protection are followed, which include principles such as that data remains accurate, data remains secure, and these are all data protection terms. And sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so and I think the comparison of data privacy we could make with data security, because SheSec community would be more interested to know how data privacy is different from data security. And in my opinion, data security comes under data privacy. However, these are different terms. They are data security is one of the ways to achieve data privacy. But as I mentioned, that data privacy is a rights-based approach. It focuses on individuals. Data security, on the other hand, it focuses on controls. It focuses on having technical controls or operational controls that ensure that data remains secure. So things such as encryption, that is an example of a security control, or controls that can prevent data breaches, that comes under the domain of data security. And obviously there are overlaps, because both data privacy and data security, they focus on data minimization, on how we can ensure that the data that we're collecting is the data that we need, and we're not collecting unnecessary data. And both focuses on data accuracy, that data remains accurate. So there are overlaps as well.
Okay, excellent. So this makes sense. So My next question is around the laws and regulations. So, what are some data privacy laws and regulations in Pakistan, outside Pakistan, Europe, applicable to the different regions, different industries? So what are those, please?
Yeah. So you mentioned in the beginning that the topic is complicated, so I'll try my best to make it as simple as I can, especially for non-lawyer audience. Um, so Pakistan has a data privacy bill, which has not been enforced yet. It's Personal Data Protection Bill, and once it will be passed, it will become a law, and it will be applicable to all companies. It will be applicable to all sectors. Uh, we can say that most data privacy laws, they can be divided into um, comprehensive or sector specific laws, which means that if whether they apply to all sectors, then or whether they are sector specific. And yes, there are sector specific laws such as HIPAA is a law that is applicable to the health sector in the US, and then there are other sector specific laws for financial industries. However, most data protection laws, they are general and they apply to all industries equally. For example, European law is the General Data Protection Regulation, and it applies to all sectors, to all industries, and around 120 countries right now they have data protection laws, and most of these laws are based on the framework of the GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation of Europe. It is considered to be the most comprehensive law, and that is why most countries all around the world they have followed its framework. They have followed the model of the GDPR, and for example, Africa has a law, POPIA, that is also based on the framework of the GDPR. And in Middle East, in Africa, and in Australia, Canada, all of these countries they have very comprehensive data protection laws. If we go to the United States, then they have state-specific laws. For example, California will have its own state law, and other states will have their own state-specific data privacy laws.
Okay, okay. So do you think that for startups and businesses, does it become really difficult to comply with, these regulations, these hefty regulations? And I mean, does this create any obstacle, in running their businesses, in marketing, or in anything? And, does this create any problem for them, for the startup especially? We are
Yeah, that's
focusing.
a very relevant question. For startups that do not want to invest in compliance with data privacy laws, or do not have that much of budget or investment to fulfill the requirements, to have the resources, to have a legal resources or privacy resources that can help them to comply with laws. That can be this is a very relevant question. But there are some ways that can help startups to start complying with data privacy laws. Like for example, first of all, I would say, in my opinion, the first step could be to have a data inventory, and you need to know where your data is, who are your customers, and where are your customers residing, and what are the different categories of data. You need to make all of that part of an inventory, and you need to have a really good data inventory, or you could say data mapping. And once you have that, then that can help you identify which data privacy laws apply to you. So depending on your consumers or your users, you can find out which laws are applicable to your company. So there will be laws that are applicable to you based on your jurisdiction, based on the place where you are located, based on the place, your business place. And then there will be laws that will be applicable to you based on your the residency of your consumers. So once you have the data of your consumers, then you can identify which data privacy laws apply to you. That could be a good starting point for startups.
Okay, so in order, so let's say if I am a startup and I want to comply with data privacy, the first step would be to identify where our data is, right?
Yeah.
So this is the first step. So, but what are some basic principles, the processes, the guidelines that we need to follow, to comply with these regulations to implement data privacy in an organization?
Yes. So, as I said, the first step would be to know where data is. The second step is to know which data privacy laws apply to you. And the third step, of course, is once you have identified applicable data privacy laws, then what are the requirements under those data privacy laws? And most data privacy laws, they have certain data protection principles. For example, they require you to be transparent with your consumers or your users. And when I say they require you to be transparent, it means that you need to inform your users that you're collecting their data, and you need to inform the reasons of why you are doing so. So transparency is one of the principles that is found in many data protection laws. And another principle is data minimization. So startups and even small organizations and big organizations, they really need to focus on data minimization, which I think is we're lacking in this concept in today's digital world, because we have volumes and volumes of data, and companies are collecting so much information about us. But the question is, can they collect all of this information just because they have the power and they have the capability to collect all this information? Does that mean that they can continue doing so? So, in that regard, I would say that the data privacy laws, they focus on data minimization. They focus that companies should be collecting only the data that is relevant for their business purpose, that they actually require, and not unnecessary details. So that is an important principle that startups and other businesses can follow. Um, Another thing that startups and businesses can follow is purpose limitation. That means that the so you informed your consumers that you're collecting data for this purpose, then stick to that purpose. Because you cannot violate the purposes. You cannot use that data for some other purpose. So if I am giving my data for marketing purposes, that they can send me marketing messages, so I'm expecting that the company will be using my data only for that purpose, but and it should not be using my details for some other purpose. And if it wants to do for some other purpose, then they need to inform me. So these are some basic key principles, right? That you need to inform your individuals. You collect the data only what is relevant and what is necessary for your business purpose, and do not collect unnecessary data, and use the data only for the purpose it was originally collected for. And where you want to deviate from your original purpose, then you need to ask the data subject, you need to take their consent.
I agree with you here. Consent is really important, especially when it comes to privacy. So we have discussed the principles. We have discussed the first step. Now, okay, we think that, yeah, okay, we need to implement data privacy. So for that, do we need to hire a whole team, or do you think that a data privacy officer would be sufficient to take this program and implement it? So what's your take on that?
Well, yes, it depends whether you are able to hire a team, and it also depends that which how many privacy laws are applicable, and how much budget you have. So it's going to be a business decision, taking into consideration all these relevant factors. A DPO, a data protection officer, is someone who ensures compliance with data privacy laws. And if a company decides to have a DPO, then the company needs to ensure that the DPO is well versed with data privacy laws. he or she is familiar with laws and is someone who can actually guide you through laws and can ensure compliance within the company. And at the same time, the DPO should be neutral to the company, so that without any biases and without taking into consideration business interests, he or she can come up with actual guidance that is required by companies on how they can comply with data privacy laws. And the reason that nowadays maybe companies are moving towards the direction where they may require a whole department to look into their data privacy concerns is because of the sheer volumes of data they are collecting. There's so much of data, and there are so many of their consumers that perhaps it cannot be handled by one person. So there, like, you will need resources to ensure complete compliance with data privacy laws.
Yeah, I read somewhere that data is the new oil, so obviously you need to hire people, you need to hire resources to handle that much, oil. Okay.
Yeah.
So, Maria, as a lawyer and, as a data privacy analyst, have you did you face any challenges, or what's your take when businesses so we have seen this trend, um obviously for businesses, marketing, IT, all of these departments, they come first because you can say they are the backbone or they are the earning bones, right?
Mm.
So we see that sometimes security or privacy or governance, risk and compliance, all of these departments, they kind of like, stay behind. So have you faced this with data privacy? And do you think that businesses are not prioritizing this, or is it totally reverse? Businesses are prioritizing data privacy. What's your opinion on this?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. Um, so I think it also depends on the geography where you're based and how effective the implementation of laws is. So, for example, in Pakistan or in other developing countries where the implementation of laws is not as much effective as in other parts of the world, businesses tend to think they do not tend to think about about complying with laws, and they do not prioritize data privacy or other compliance with laws as much as they should be doing so. um, because if laws are effective and they know that they will be penalized under laws and that there will be actions for violating against requirements, then of course they will be prioritizing compliance. But when they know that they can get away easily, then they may not prioritize. So I'm talking with reference to data privacy laws. Pakistan, right now, we do not have an enforced law, we have a bill. So that is why companies are not focusing on data privacy compliance at this point. But once this law will become, this bill will become the law, then companies will start thinking about compliance, because then they may be subject to liabilities and they may be subject to penalties for any violation. And in the broader spectrum, I would say that in today's world, corporations and businesses, they are becoming more socially aware. They are becoming more socially responsible. At least that is the image that they want to portray to their consumers. And there are many reasons, because one, they're concerned about their reputation, and they are concerned about their consumer trust. So if they keep violating data privacy of their consumers, and there are several incidents of data breaches, ultimately the consumer trust will be lost, and that will impact companies. So companies are starting to recognize that the protection of data privacy or the interests of consumers and the rights of consumers is also within their commercial interest and within their business interest. And I think that is the approach that businesses in Pakistan, they also start, they need to start following this approach, that they need to realize that how the protection of rights of individuals is within their commercial interests.
I agree. So, okay, so we have discussed the businesses in, I think, in detail. We have discussed. So, what about data privacy in recruitment process? So, what are some obligations of employers towards their employees when it comes to data privacy?
Mhm. So employers are just like other companies. They're collecting data from job applicants and from employees, and they have certain responsibilities. They are also required to ensure that all data protection principles are met. And this becomes relevant maybe in the recruitment process, as you have asked. Again, I mentioned data minimization earlier, that you collect the data only what is relevant. So in the recruitment process, you should only be collecting data that is relevant for the recruitment purpose. For example, if there is a form for job application and you're asking marital details of somebody, maybe that is not relevant for the position that person is applying for. So why are you asking that details, and why are you collecting that data? So that is one thing that employers need to ensure, that they only ask relevant details from job applicants. And the other thing could be where data privacy becomes relevant is when they undergo background checks, or whether or when they, you know, do referral checks during recruitment process. So when you are doing this, what you are doing is that for background checks, you are transferring personal data and details of the job applicant to some other company. So, and that is one of the formalities that you have to fulfill for the job recruitment purpose. But then you need to inform the job applicant uh, of this, so that he or she knows that what is happening to the details they are sending to you. And if they have provided a reference and you want to undertake a referral check, then you will be required to take the consent from the job applicant, that whether you can contact the referee they have provided, and and if they have given consent, then you can continue. So these are minor examples, and when we think very closely about these things, we know that somehow some data is being collected and some data is going to be transferred to other parties. So data privacy of an individual ultimately becomes important and relevant in all these examples.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with you here. So, as a customer and as an online user, what would you suggest to us, that just shed some light on the importance of data privacy, especially when everything is over social media. The companies we apply, they also have their Instagram pages, every LinkedIn. So we are sharing each and every detail, on messages, on DMs. So what's your recommendation here?
So my recommendation to online users, or to individuals, would be to remain informed on what is happening in the privacy space, on what is happening to your data, who are you giving to your data, and what they're going to do with your data. Being informed is one of the first steps, I would say. And like, for example, as an online user, we whenever we visit a website, we usually see a banner that pops up, and it says that we're dropping cookies, and do you want to accept cookies or not? And we, without thinking, we just randomly tick the box and we say yes, we want to accept the cookies. And then but we do not realize that what that cookies are doing, they're actually taking our browsing information, they are taking our interests, and they're tracking us, and then they start sending us advertisements based on our interests. And then we start seeing all the advertisements related to our interests. So for example, if we search something on Google, then we will start seeing similar advertisements on Facebook and on other websites. And then we wonder why it happened in the first place. It was because of cookies, the tracking cookies. It may not be a bad thing. Many users may like this thing, that they want to keep seeing those advertisements, so that they know they should be. I mean, maybe there are people who do not mind this, but at least we as consumers can be informed. I mean, because what if you do not want to be tracked? So you should be informed of these things, so that next time when you are visiting a website and a banner pops up, then if you do not want to be tracked, you can say, no, I do not want to be tracked. And another example, which is related to being informed, is when we provide our details for marketing messages. So whenever we make a purchase and when we buy anything, whether online or offline, they take our details, they take our email address or phone number, and then the next time they start sending us marketing messages. Um, and those messages and those e-marketing emails can get very annoying. So if as a consumer and as a user, I would say if you need to be informed, then you should not have consented to be receiving those marketing messages at the first place.
Yeah, I agree. So, so what? I mean, what's the process where we can go and report? That there's a privacy breach for organizations and for customers. Is the same questions for both? What's the process?
So it depends to whom. Depends that your complaint is against whom.
Mm-hmm.
So in many countries, there are data protection regulatory authorities. They are responsible for ensuring compliance with data privacy laws. So usually, what happens that individuals, whenever they have any complaint, they can file a complaint to the regulatory authority, and the regulatory authority then looks into the issue, and it has the power to impose liabilities and penalties on companies. And that regulatory authority is government authority. It's similar, just like we have harassment ombudsman for to look into cases for against harassment, and then we have other regulatory authorities who are looking into different matters. And once the law will be passed, when the personal data protection bill will become the law, then there will be a regulatory authority in Pakistan where people would be able to take their cases. And then one another relief individuals could get is to go to courts, and many data privacy laws also allow this. That they have court remedies, and then you can bring a civil case against the company before the court, and then they can decide whether to give you compensation or not.
Okay, that's very informative. So we talk about some thefts and we talk about the breaches. What are, you can say, some privacy threats that organizations need to look after, and what do you think? I mean, I know that privacy is important everywhere where the data is being collected, but in your opinion, what would you suggest could be the target for privacy breaches? The industry, what industry that needs to be really looking out, really looking out for all of these privacy threats?
Mhm. I would say industries that are dealing with relatively sensitive information, they definitely need to ensure data privacy. So, for example, uh, sensitive information, by that I mean health sector and financial sector, because here sensitive personal information of individuals is involved. And the consequences for such breaches can be disastrous, and those consequences can be very detrimental for both individuals and companies. So they really need to take data privacy very seriously. And as far as threats are concerned, well, threats, there can be different examples of threats from there can be small to big, major examples of threats. Like, and there are different examples of data breaches. So, for example, just a very minor example of a data breach, that I send an email to somebody. But if I have to send you an email with your personal details, but I accidentally send it to somebody else, so that is an example of data breach. Uh, and you can come up to me in the future and say that why have you sent your personal details to someone else, and I can be held liable for that. So it's as minor as it is, and it can be a major example as well.
Yeah, definitely. And then I can take some legal actions against you. You shared my personal details, right? Okay, so what do you suggest? What controls we need to implement on an organizational level to, be safe from all breaches?
Yeah, so in the field of data privacy, as I said, that the organizations, they need to adhere to all data protection principles. They need to know where their data is, and so that they can ensure that all data protection principles, such as data minimization and purpose limitation, that they are being followed. And as far as controls are concerned, yes, the organizations, they need to have security controls, and I think cybersecurity people, they would be in better position to explain what kind of controls we should adopt, depending on the volume of the data, or depending on the number of consumers. And in the field of data privacy, and most data privacy laws, they promote and industry-wide controls that are industry-wide recognized as best standards. For example, encryption is one of the examples that is considered it is considered an appropriate control, and it is considered an industry best practice. And similarly, we have examples of pseudonymization, which is also considered an industry best practice. So, data privacy specialists, they leave security controls to security specialists, to cybersecurity, to the field of data security, that they can decide which security controls are appropriate in a specific situation.
Yeah, so what I gather from this is that cybersecurity specialist and data privacy specialist, they work, like really together, right? When it comes to implement cybersecurity controls, data privacy controls. Sorry, yeah.
So when we use the term data privacy controls, we're basically uh, referring to the data security controls, because those controls will ultimately be ensuring data privacy. Um, and as I mentioned earlier, that data privacy and security, they are very interlinked concepts, and they are very overlapping, but at the same time, there can be differences as well. So, for example, in data privacy, the focus is not always to keep the data confidential. That data can also be in the public domain. But in data security, we are building security controls to ensure that the data remains confidential, and it cannot go in public domain. And this is one difference, but at the same time, the overlapping factor is that both data privacy and data security, they are aiming to prevent data from from data breaches, from unauthorized access, from unauthorized disclosures, or from using that data for some other purpose and not for its original purpose. So there are similarities and differences.
Okay. Yeah. So with similarity and differences, the goal is same, but approaches might be different.
Yes, you can say that.
Excellent. So I guess I'm done with my questions. Let's see if our audience have any questions for us. So I guess there are already two questions from Ayman Khan. Let me read it out. Can you explain the scenarios of how my PII get exploited? And what are the threats if at minimum my email ID or password get compromised? Okay, so I guess we covered it a little bit, but if you can just explain it details about the threats on email ID and passwords getting exploited and the scenarios. So basically, Iman Khan is she wants to know the scenarios, threat scenarios. Yeah.
So I think it depends. That there can be so many examples of data breaches, and it depends which companies are actually get hacking your email address or getting your details. And it also depends on the kind of breach, whether your account has been hacked, or whether you accidentally provided details, or whether there were not enough security controls, and there wasn't any proper encryption or other controls that could protect your data. And you're asking that how those details can be exploited. Like your email address can be used as someone can use it for doing fraud with other businesses, or someone can use it for other purposes. Like we get messages and emails from fake IDs, so they can exploit in that sense. And their exploitation can happen in different ways, and they can misuse your email address, they can misuse it for various purposes. So I mean, there are very different examples of threats and data breaches.
Okay, so I just picked it up from your from your explanation about so my email address. It's kind of a private thing, but it's also displayed on my resume, on my LinkedIn account. Wherever I sign up, they have my email address as well. But so it's kind of like private, but it's on public as well. So
Yeah.
what's the difference between these two, private and public domain, and how one thing which can be private uh, to me and it's on public. So how can we secure that? How can we make sure privacy around it?
Yeah. So your email address and or your name, uh, they remain your personal data, whether your email address is in private domain or in the public domain. So anything that can identify an individual is personal data. That can include your name, your email address, your home address. My email address can identify me, so it is my personal data. But at the same time, as you have mentioned, that it's on LinkedIn, it's on newspaper, or on your resume, so it is on the public domain, but it will still remain your personal data. The difference comes that if it is in the public domain, even then basically you're giving the authority to public that they can send you email, right? I can come up to you and I can start sending you emails, and that should be fine. I can reach out to you, but can I send you marketing emails? Can I just randomly pick email addresses of people on from LinkedIn, and can I just start promoting my business, and can I start bugging you every single day and start promoting my messages? um, I doubt that you can do that, because under data privacy laws, companies they need to obtain consent from users before sending them marketing messages. And so you can only send a marketing message if you have actually consented and if you do not, if you, without consent, you cannot do that. So because of the reason that your email address is also is your personal data, it will still be subject to data privacy laws, and it will still have certain um, it will still have certain protections under data privacy laws.
Okay, that's nice. That's nice. So another question from Iman Khan: if a company is a large corporate having multiple businesses on different jurisdictions, Europe, US, Canada, China, what is the best strategy to comply with the multiple laws? Okay, this is a really nice one.
Yeah, this is a very relevant question because in today's world, we see that many transnational companies are functioning and they collect data and then they have consumers and users from other jurisdictions. So, as I mentioned earlier, the first thing would be to identify which privacy laws apply to you. And just because you're based in, let's say, Pakistan, does not mean that only Pakistani law will apply to you. Maybe you have consumers from other jurisdictions, then laws from those jurisdictions will also become applicable. So, in the scenario you have mentioned that up there is a company and they have businesses in different places like China or Canada and the US, and the first thing is that wherever the company is based, that geography is very important, where it is registered, because the laws of that particular country would definitely apply. And then all the countries, because you are working there, so you're collecting data from those countries and you have consumers and users in those jurisdictions. So then laws of those countries will also become very relevant. So there's a possibility that at one time one company is subject to multiple data privacy laws. So that is why it is important to identify which privacy laws apply to you.
Okay. And we have another one here. It's from Ali Raza. How can we claim ownership on our social media accounts? Like if Instagram has been disabled, or Instagram has disabled my account and they think I have violated some of their terms of conditions, but I did not.
Mhm. So I think in that sense there's some power which is given. Some Instagram, social media, Facebook, these are companies and they have some power. Um, and you, when you make an account, you're signing up to their terms and conditions. And if the your signing up was conditional that you're going to follow the terms and conditions, and if they have the discretion and power to decide that you violated any of their terms and conditions, then they can block your account. So that is a possibility.
Okay. And then he goes on. Even reading the whole TOS, I find that I haven't violated any terms, and after appealing, they haven't activated the same. How to claim it back? Okay, so it's the same thing. How to claim it back so one can't lose his or her data. Hmm.
You want to claim back the data?
Yeah.
Okay, I think as companies, they should be deleting your data, because once your account is no more, then it's the responsibility on them to delete your details and your data. But however, we're coming from Pakistan, and practically speaking, not sure how to what extent Instagram or other social media companies would actually be following this. But as an obligation, they should be doing so.
Okay, so we can't really actually say that that they are keeping our data once we have left their environment, their space. We can't actually be sure on it, right? Because they can keep it, they cannot keep it. It's up to them. What if this claim that we have deleted everything and they are actually keeping each and every record?
Yes, that is very very true that we as individuals do not have awareness, and that is why the focus is on companies, that they need to inform individuals, and they need to have proper privacy policies and privacy notices that can help us to find out that which data they are collecting, what are they going to do with our data, and if they are going to delete our data or not. So, and it should be our right that as individuals we should have a say, and as that we can go to companies and ask them that that you should delete our account, and that if we are no longer want to keep our details, and as companies they have an obligation to fulfill your request, to fulfill your request, and to ensure that once you have deleted the account, the details have also been deleted.
Yeah. And do you think that audit, internal or external, would help in this area? Like, so if we take an example from security, the external audit or, audit from state bank for banks, so they actually make sure whether we are abiding by what we claim. So do you think in this area, keeping customer data and claiming that we will not keep it, do you think that audit would help?
Yes, definitely an audit would help, and it would be one way to convince companies to comply and to implement data privacy laws.
Agreed, agreed. Okay, so we have another question from Ifra. How can our government improve privacy laws in Pakistan, and what steps should they take? Good one, Ifra.
Yeah, so the government of Pakistan has already passed has a bill right now, personal data protection bill, and there are consultation sessions going on, and the bill. It is expected that bill will become the law very soon, and once it will become the law, then it will be effective on all companies and organizations. And there can be liabilities and penalties against companies for violation of the requirements of personal data protection law. So, but at this point, it's still a bill and it has not become a law yet. So let's wait for some time period because consultation sessions are going on, and there's hope that it will become law very soon.
So once it becomes a law, it will be so basically Ali Raza says that it means being a Pakistani, we have a right to make an account but not to claim any right against the giant tax. So that's his perspective. I mean, I would like to mix my question here is, so once the law, once it becomes law in Pakistan, so then we can actually sue the giant tax as well, right? So
Yes,
does
yes.
that mean that?
As consumers, theoretically, it is very much possible.
Okay, so you have to just wait, Ali Raza, if you want to sue Instagram. All right. Do we have any more questions? Let me see. No, not here. Okay, and I guess yeah. So we have to end the session. The time is almost up, and it was really nice meeting you. And I actually learned a lot. I don't know about the audiences, but I actually learned a lot about data privacy, and I'm very excited. To take actions. To be able to not take actions but to be able to sue. So let's see when the privacy law applies to Pakistan and it comes to Pakistan. So let's see. And do you have anything you want to add here?
Yeah, I think so. It was a really interesting conversation, but data privacy is such a wide field, and I can understand that people would have many questions, like what requirements are for financial sector or for health sector, and we discussed on a very surface level, but we did not go into details because of our time limit. However, it's definitely a very wide field, and if we want to go into detail, we can go. But because we did not have that much time today, so we discussed these issues on a surface. So I hope that it gives some clarity to our audience.
Hmm. I hope that as well. All right. So, Maria, see you. Okay. And take care.
Thank
Um,
you. Thank you so
I'm
much.
going to end the session now. Okay. Thank you everyone for joining us. Take care. Allah Hafiz.